care. I don't care because I care about the actual you. I care about the you that's inside of you, the you that wants to be true, the you that wanted to be you, the you that believed you could be, but now you're swept up inside all these lies, all these extremes that tell you and sell you on what you should be. They're telling you and they're selling you what they believe, and you're not you anymore. You're just one of the extremes. You're not you anymore. You don't know where you begin and why you breathe, except to leave you behind and be a light for one side, to be a light for one team, to be a light, to wear the shirt, to own that rule book or playbook. Yeah, that's you. I see it all around me. What happened to that middle way they taught in school? That middle way that tells you everything will be just fine if you just let go of the need to be right and you listen to both teams, to both extremes. What are we? Are we just some big great sports nation dividing up all the toys? Are we just some big sports nation dividing up the girls from boys? Are we just some big sports nation choosing sides, choosing teams? Well, I was always picked last in kickball. I guess I know you won't know what I mean, but I see it all around. I see it as a flaw in the game. I see it all around. You all want peace. You want to stand out for your way. I see it all around. I see it all around on both sides. It makes me so dang unpopular to want to live my life for peace and love, not the side that screams hate in the name of peace and love. I started pulling away from you years ago when you told me that my peace and love was offensive to you because it didn't make room for your righteous anger. Yeah, I see you, 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 I know you, I've seen you all these years, all these loud and fateful years. I see the ways we're all trying to belong. Can we belong to ourselves inside every song? Or is it wrong? Or is it wrong of me? Is it so dang wrong of me to not choose sides? 'Cause I see dictator voices in everything around me. I see wild extremes in everything around me. I see it in you. I see how I wanted you to love me. I see it in you, in how I needed you to love me. But you couldn't love me unless I proclaimed your words with my voice. But voices don't work like that. Voices don't work like that. Voices don't work like that. Do you know what voices? Yeah, you to look and listen to. If your voice has been hijacked, because the point of a voice is to bring forward what you really believe. And if when you do that you hear a contrasting belief, then the point of a voice is to find that middle way that holds the light, that finds the light inside of both beliefs, that finds the light inside of both beliefs. One's been hijacked first, it's true. One's been hijacked and sold a bill of goods and was taking over this country. It's true, it's disgusting. I was on the opposing team for a while because I saw it clear as day. I saw it clear as day that one voice was hijacking the whole thing. It was taking over the whole thing. And I guess if you get right down to it, they believed that one singular voice in the media was taking over the whole thing, that all rights were good, that all approaches were good, and that you could never talk about anything that disagreed anymore because it wasn't your story to tell. But there are some people paying for the systems. There are some people doing more than their share of the work. Paying for the systems, doing most of the work. And I don't do most of the work. I'm a strange little artist to the side, not doing most of the work, just translating feelings for my whole life. Not doing most of the work. Not doing most of the work. And getting the least reward. I don't know who this song is for. Are there people in the middle ground staying silent for now? Is it too unsafe to hold the middle ground when the world's compounding and confounding all around? You all around, you. Does it make you uncomfortable to realize that discomfort is the new comfort? It's social comfort to choose a team and fight your way and yell at things. It's social comfort, the social contract, it's all been broken. I understand injustice is all around, and those in power won't see power unless the other side raises voices. But if it's not your fight, shut up. That song is dedicated to everyone who is confused right now at the conflicting messages of how to help. I've never been more clear as I am right now at my own fairly moderate positions, skewing towards liberal, but fairly moderate in many departments. And not moderate as in watered down, but moderate as in like the true middle. In some cases, wealth is extreme greed. In some cases, wealth is selfishness. And in other cases, wealth is people genuinely working harder than me to be part of systems that reward them with money. And who am I to demand that they disproportionately take care of people like me? For my mental health, for my disadvantages, or for the mental health and disadvantages of others, I believe that there need to be more checks and balances, and that more attention needs to be given to people who are struggling. And this country has a giant Band-Aid over it right now, and that Band-Aid is coming off. And I believe it is supposed to be happening, and I believe there is no other thing that could have happened in reaction to someone as deeply disturbing as we have leading the country astray right now, in my opinion. And the whole thing feels like reality TV and like some kind of creepy show. And so I'm grateful that there are other powers showing up and speaking out. But where I think this gets dangerous is that there is a narrative right now that if you're not with me, you're against me. And whether it's white silence is violence, or whether it is some other narrative that implied, even back in 2016, that if you weren't speaking up constantly, that you were normalizing these new realities. And the truth is, I tried speaking up constantly, and it made me not well, not useful, not functional, not able to put music into the world that had any meaning. Maybe I still was, but there have been incredibly confusing narratives. And if you genuinely do not fall on one of the two extremes, if you are genuinely not pro anything crazy person in chief does, sorry, I'm not even trying to be against your side, I don't like him. I'm literally telling you that I can see where that side came from. There is a lot of unrest in the country at the direction the country was headed right before. And that there were things being taught to maybe your kids that you didn't agree with, and you felt like you were living in a world that was increasingly liberally popular, where it became deeply unpopular to have beliefs that differed from the liberal norm. And I understand that that's what was happening before he got elected, is that liberalism socially, whether or not it's related to economics, liberalism socially became so normal and popular through TV shows and whatnot that kids were likely all inheriting that, and maybe the adults were getting pissed. I don't know. I can't understand, because it can't just be because he says he's pro-abortion or anti-abortion or whatever. Anyone who's like a Christian who says that's the only thing that they go off of. So I understand that there are genuine extremists that follow what's-his-face all the way to the ends of the earth. But I think many more people are not really on his side. They just like some of the tax benefits that come with him. And now there's this other side, which happens to right now be specifically related to the Black Lives Matter movement. And I've never felt that passionate in my heart for a group of people before, looking at what they've lived through and been through. And so I wanted to be supportive, and I do want to be supportive. But where it gets dangerous for me is sayings like white silence is violence. But then in the very next day, seeing something like muted and, hey, white allies, please sit down and be quiet and just support. You know, for me, that message is too confusing. For my trauma background of having been abused, especially mentally and emotionally abused, I can't sustain that quick of a flip of, if you're silent, you're being violent against our community, but now if you're talking, you're doing it wrong. Please sit down and be quiet. And I understand that the messages keep getting refined, but that is not my fight. And I need to withdraw myself and take my own put it this way. It is my fight, as in that's the side I care about more. But I have to have a sense of, I probably have BPD. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. I don't know. I probably did when I was younger, and now it's maintained by being very antisocial, like very solitary, introverted. And so I'm mostly okay as a human most of the time. But things like this really trigger that for me. Like, I need to be able to use my own inner system as my compass. And if I'm not allowed to by the loudest voices in the room, if back in 2016 I was shamed by the side I was supporting because apparently peace and love language was triggering for people because they wanted to be angry or they needed to be angry, and if my peace and love language of wanting people to reconcile is problematic for them, then what's my solution? Either I then have to fake imitate them, or I have to stay out of the debate. But you're also telling me staying out of the debate is white silence equals violence. And then there's things all over the place criticizing white people for working through their feelings on this. Like, we just need to shut up. So, at the end of the day, I understand that someone like me talking about this would weaken the movement and would turn people away from supporting. But the reason I'm trying to turn people away from supporting is because I'm trying to say, if your voice, like mine, is confused and is a follower based on trauma, even if your heart's in the right place, then this might not be your fight. Like, you can support it in love, or you can share when you feel inspired to share, but if your trauma baggage is making it so you feel like you have to become a complete fake shell of a human in order to support correctly, so that the popular kids like you, so that the people that you understand and agree are disadvantaged will like you back, like, if you're feeling any of those kind of feelings, like, this isn't, I don't know. Extremism is very troublesome to me. But I think in this case, this extremism is being born out of things that are happening that are extreme from the other side. But that other side could argue that pre-2016 there was extremism in the media, that liberalism was so normalized that you couldn't have values or beliefs that were different from it. I'm deeply anti-Nazi, deeply anti-anyone who believes individualism is an excuse to oppress a group, especially a group that's been historically oppressed, which is not white men. So I'm very anti that kind of extremism, but because I can't lie and say that I'm anti that form of extremism, but then I'm okay with other extremism. I'm never okay with extremism. I've never seen a situation where things that are extreme didn't lead to violence. And I've never seen a situation where violence was the long-term answer. You can say it will shift the balance, and I believe you. And maybe if people don't use violence to stand up to people, then we would be living in Hitler's America right now. So maybe violence is the answer. But it's not the answer for me. And I know we're not supposed to be about individualism right now, but you're also telling me to white silence is violence, but also be quiet. You know, I'm telling you, this is the conflict that's inside of my heart, and I can't make my heart or my mind be at a different place than it is. And I can't just blindly support you just because you're clear in who you are and what your beliefs are. Like, I can't. The same way I can't blindly support Trump just because he's the leader of America and I want to be a patriot. I cannot. So I can't blindly support. And I can read a ton of things and still feel all this conflict. If you tell me that the problem is that I'm not educating myself, then I do. I tend to read all of it. I've had a very low, sad week from staying off social media, but reading the news more, and I'm just as conflicted as ever. So, what do I feel in my deep heart? Black Lives Matter. Do not say all lives matter. It's offensive. It's obvious that people think white lives matter. It's obvious from how the world is operating. So don't say all lives matter. That's deeply offensive. Even though, yes, the peace and love language. Yes, of course. My heart matters, your heart matters, my soul matters, your soul matters. All of us matter. Cool. That's not what this movement's about. White lives are not being just randomly slaughtered all over the place. So don't say all lives matter, even though all lives matter. Just don't say it. It's offensive. Black Lives Matter is a movement because people in this country are acting like Black lives don't matter. That's disgusting. It's deeply disgusting. This whole country is founded on that, believing that Black lives don't matter as much. Who would think to enslave people? Who would do that? What disgusting... white people. Like, not me, not my ancestors as far as I know, but there are white people all over that think it's okay to have enslaved people. Like, how did you mentally trick yourself to think that that's okay? And if your ancestors did that, that means it's in your blood. It's in your DNA. And I'm not saying you should then feel deeply ashamed about yourself, but maybe reflect on that. Because there are thought patterns in your ancestry, which is maybe what past lives are. I mean, I have no idea. But there are thought patterns in your ancestry that would be saying all the mental loops to get you to believe that it's okay to enslave Black people. Does the skin color difference make it feel more okay? Like, would you enslave other white people? Oh, sure. That's what Jeff Bezos is doing. I don't even know how to say his name right. My point is, like, some white people will enslave white people too. And then they'll use class to be okay with it. Well, they're poor. Or this is good for them. Like, I don't know. This is a class thing. It's a race thing. It's an everything thing. And I can't say any of this out loud in the real world. I mean, what I'm needing to hold on to right now is that my ideas are too complicated to affect the masses, and that actually should make me feel good. Because I've been silencing my voice because my voice is complicated and it doesn't work as a sound bite. But the thing is, if this is helpful to you, to hear complicated talking at a time that is trying to simplify everything into this side or that side, you're with us or you're against us. I mean, if I had to logistically explain what I genuinely am, if each side believes you're with us or against us, then I'm literally against both sides. And if I'm against both sides, then who am I for? And if I'm just for me, then that doesn't make sense to me because my heart aches for people. But first and foremost, probably from all the Buddhism and Taoism and even Christianity stuff that I've read, first and foremost, my experience is inward with me. And so is yours. Yours is with you. Mine's with me, yours is with you. And I could talk New Age literature, I could talk Buddhism, Taoism, almost every spiritual experience ever. Everything's happening inside of yourself. You're experiencing all of politics inside of yourself. And I'm experiencing all of politics inside of myself. Like, this is wild that people don't get that. So if I'm removed from everybody in order to think my own thoughts, then that's a terrifying place to be. Because who would be for me? Nobody. Who would support me in all of this? If I'm struggling, no one on either side would support me. So then that leaves you alone. And I think normally there's more of a middle. And right now, people, I think, feel like it's dangerous to be in the middle. Like it's not allowed. I know people who in Trump's America felt like they weren't allowed to argue against anything, any of the complaining that was going on the liberal side, because if they argued against even one piece of it, then they were a Trump supporter. And they knew in their own heart they weren't a Trump supporter, but they couldn't talk about the nuances because that's the camp they were thrown into. Like, debate was basically not allowed. Ever since Trump got elected, this liberalism, the debates that I've been seeing they're just boxing out moderates and conservatives who I know don't support Trump. At best, they support that they had lowered taxes. That's what I'm seeing. And that's not me, but those are people I know. I don't have makeup on. I keep being disturbed by my own face. It's pretty extreme right now. Well, I wasn't meaning to make a check-in video. I don't even know when I'll start posting these again. I have them all the way back to February. I made one in, I don't know, I think I lost all my data from late January to mid-March or later, mid-April, I don't know. I haven't been posting anything since because it all just makes me feel sad. I'm like sort of at the futility of all of it. Songwriting, writing, anything. But I have to believe that this is for you. It is for all the yous who don't know who to be. See, of course I'm in the middle. Because I'm in middle age. Like I'm starting to age pretty noticeably. I should wear makeup if I'm gonna fret about my appearance. Because nobody goes on these without makeup while not feeling their best. And then expects themselves to feel cute. Like, if I want to feel cute, I should do myself up. And if I don't care that I don't feel cute, then I can do this. But I've been changing my diet a lot, and I think it's affecting my everything. Well, that's my life in 2020 America, in the midst of a global pandemic and civil unrest. It's frickin' wild. And I can't help but keep projecting forward in my mind towards times of resolution. Revolution only if it leads to resolution. Only if it leads to more justice, more peace, more understanding. I just fear that it's never going to be enough. And if it's never enough, then the other side will just want to shoot it down. It's sort of like when you come at an extreme with demands that are the opposite of what that extreme believes, then if your goal is not to find a middle ground where both sides can be happy, if that's not your goal, if the two extremes are pulling apart from each other so violently and there truly isn't a willingness on either side to look for what's the middle of our beliefs, then of course it would lead to violence and war. Why wouldn't it? And so that's why, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're like me, if you don't genuinely feel these extremes, which this extreme will never convince this extreme to become this extreme. Like, you do understand this, right? That's how extremism works. If you are this extreme, even if you're one of the extremes that I do believe is accurate, which is that all lives, what I'm trying to say is black lives, that black lives should matter more to the whole world, to people. Like, if you are on that extreme that is like, duh, how are we not all getting this? All lives, meaning black lives, should be treated with the same integrity that these white lives are currently being treated with. Like, if you are on that side, it's not that you're ethically wrong. I think you're ethically right. But if your demands are to get a side that has historically not valued you to 110% value you when they're over here, and I think through your strong actions, the best you're going to get is for them to meet you in the middle. And if your voice is now so strong and extreme that you forget that to even get them to the middle, to even get them 10% is probably huge progress. And if they make it 20, 30, even 40% towards that middle, if then you are not willing to say that that's good, that we're making progress, if you are then continuing to say, no, that's not enough, and even when they hit 50%, if that's still not enough to you, they're never gonna, I mean, whatever, no offense, but they're extreme too. The same way you're not gonna budge at all, I don't think they're gonna budge at all. The extreme people, not the people that do have room to be flexible. But if your goal is to get those extremists to 100% understand your point, then please just understand how logic works. They're extreme the same way you are extreme, and they believe in their point the same way you believe in your point. And even though I agree with your point ethically, and I completely disagree with their point ethically, I accept reality that they exist. It's not that I accept that they have a right to their opinion, like I think their opinion is equally valid. I think yours is ethically valid and theirs sucks. But I can see truth in this extreme over here. The truth is, a lot of times this extreme over here is creating the systems, creating the wealth, and I'm benefiting. And now I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter. Now I'm saying, like, if this super rich extreme is creating systems that I'm using and or benefiting from, then I need to be willing, if I want to be against this, to stop using the things. Don't use Amazon. Don't use grocery stores if they know how to use a supply chain and I don't. Or don't use electricity if I don't know how I would run my life without it. You know, I'm not the one making up those systems. Other people have installed those power lines. I mean, I understand that the work comes from the majority of the world that's building those things, but these people have this like vested interest in control and domination in systems and structures, and I'm not saying I agree with them ethically, but I am benefiting from the systems they're creating. So I would have to be willing to let go of all of that if I were going to extremely be against them. And that's why I can't fully join you over here, because I see that I benefit from social media, I benefit from technology, I benefit from all kinds of social systems that I personally would not know how to replace. And so yes, that makes me a cog in the wheel, a cog in the huge system, but I don't see an alternative for me personally. So I can't join something that is just saying we don't like this system, but we're going to make our own, because I don't know where yours is going to lead. I don't know what power structures you're going to put in place. And so far from what I've seen, I as a white woman am not super valued in a lot of those extreme versions of the Black Lives Matter movement. My voice has been silenced even while telling me that me silencing my voice is white silence, and that is confusing for me. And I'm not supposed to say any of this because this is me being a Karen. I'm not supposed to say this stuff because I lose friends and I lose support on this side, the same way that I've lost, in the last 3 years, I've lost so much connection with so much family from this side. Family extended, not my close family, but because I made clear that I believe in the ethics of this side. I believe in the ethics of trans, gay, straight, black, white, brown bodies, everybody. Everybody has value. I believe in this side. And this side started to kind of disown me for how strongly I believe in this side. But if this side goes to the extreme of saying that all the systems are wrong and bad, which maybe they even are, maybe that is the problem. But if you don't tell me what the solution is going to be, who's creating the mental health systems that will replace the police? Who's creating the community policing? Who's doing that work? Who's going to build those structures? Who? And I'm not trying to threaten you. I want you. Go ahead and keep going. Of course, what you will without my permission. But I don't know how to get on board with a belief system that is now so extreme that it is... It doesn't remind me of this, because this feels hierarchical and this feels all is all is all. But at the same time, I keep seeing leaders over here with very strong voices. And some of those strong voices have no room for me. So how can I get on board with something that has leaders too, the same way this has leaders, but these leaders are letting me know that I'm not appropriate, or that I'm not okay, or that my ideas or my questions, not even my ideas, my questions are not okay. I don't know how to be part of something that tells me that who I am fundamentally, which is someone who's healed from so many traumas by using peace and love type ideas. And I say that because that's how you guys put it. But there are people. It's not peace and love in a bad way. It's peace and love in a where is this headed way? Yes, put the corrupt people in prison. We have to have prisons to be able to take them down. and get them out of power. Otherwise, they know how to be in power, and they'll just get back. Like, you can't be 100% anti-prisons because you want to take these creepy people over here and put them in prison. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'd prefer to give these people mental health support, but, like, some people are very far gone. And there's another ramble that I can't really share. I could bury this inside of, like, if I put like 30 YouTube videos up all at the same time, maybe I could bury this inside there and hope no one ever finds it. But if they do, then there would be a documentation of how I felt, which serves nothing and no one, because this will not win me any brownie points. This will just make people hate me or be annoyed by me or tell me to shut up. But, like, if you haven't lived through 10 plus years of mental and emotional and physical abuse, then you shut up. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. If you in your own history, and I'm not even talking about ancestry, I'm talking about your personal history, have not experienced what it feels like to repress yourself for someone else's ideas, and you don't know the damage that does to your life, and you don't know what it's like to rebuild yourself after that level of self-oppression, which explains why I'm more on this side, obviously, because I do believe in personal narratives and personal dignity and personal truth and personal recreation and all humans having value and all bodies having value and all souls having value. I'm clearly on that side. But if you haven't lived through that, then well, I should probably go. Brian works from home now and he's downstairs on a break. I just think pretending to be on one extreme or the other when you're actually not is part of the danger of the pendulum swinging that occurs in this country and has for a long time. And I don't know the solution, but I think me pretending to know the solution would be part of the problem. Okay, bye.